Hello, ladies and gents. It's Justin Johnson with the module DD316 Modern Political Ideas. Chapter 10 European Citizenship, page 208. Solidarity and reciprocity identified as important by many of Europe's ruling elites. Although the efficiency on a top-down approach to the creation of the relational practice that needed to create and maintain a sense of shared identity is problematic. It was to be the framework in which European citizenship was to be implicitly constructed through many of the decades in Dobson 2006. Throughout the 1970s and 1980s, the idea of the People's Europe Adonio 1985 was much discussed within the EEC institutions, but there were a few significant steps taken to articulate formally or develop European citizenship beyond that of a market-orientated conception. There were some attempts to build a distinct European identity, although these were focused at the institutional level in the EEC and member states rather than among the peoples of Europe. Recognising the importance of identity to the EEC, in 1971 its then 9 members agreed to the Declaration of European Identity. The Declaration sought to develop an institutional European identity for external audiences on the international stage. Predominantly symbolic acts were undertaken as part of these identity building processes, including the adoption of Beethoven's Ode to Joy by the Council of Europe as its anthem in 1972, an agreement in 1974 for European format passports, although it would be 1985 before they would be first issued. The European Parliament officially took up the European Union flag used by the Council of Europe since 1955 and 1986. Such symbols reflect those used to create and maintain a state-based sense of identity and belonging. Flags, passports and national anthems are a form of banal nationalism. Beleaguered 1995 of our everyday activities and representations of the nation to create and sustain the shared identity that underpins citizenship. For the EEC, the introduction and use of such symbols was part of an attempt to create an explicit European identity. It asserted a common culture heritage as part of the European identity, European Communities, European Council, 1983. This approach continued throughout the 1980s, and there was a growing concern at the perceived gap between the EEC and the lives of the people in which it was increasingly involved. At Donio 1985, the recognition of the need to rebalance the EEC and to ensure that the people of the member states were engaged with the wider European project, which would lead to an explicit engagement with the idea of European citizenship, and a broader articulation of its meaning than the explicit approaches had hitherto adopted. 3.1 For formal European citizenship. The immediate post-war aspiration for the distinctive European citizenship had not dissipated in the decades that followed. However, economic and political realities have meant that various reports and debates on how to strengthen and deepen some form of European citizenship had largely passed by without any action. European Court Justice, the ECJ, had, with various rulings affirming freedom of movement and equal treatment of citizens of member states. This had been the main institution to support and develop European citizenship until 2007. Concern grew at the gap between the ruling European elites, who had been central to the European project, and residents in the member states, as the EEC became increasingly supranational rather than intergovernmental organisation, and plans continued for an ever-increasing union among the people of Europe. The need to address that divide had become increasingly evident. The Maastricht and Amsterdam Treaties in 1992. Maastricht Treaty, officially known as the Treaty on the European Union, was a pivotal movement in the development of European citizenship. It formally introduced the idea of distinctive and explicit European citizenship. Every person holding the nationality of a member state shall be a citizen of the Union. European citizenship was thus constructed of the citizenship of the European Union's member states. Ultimately, the treaty offered little of the substance that was new, but instead built on long-standing developments and codified case law from the ECG on the issues of freedom of movement and equal treatment. It did, however, extend freedom of movement to encompass all citizens of the European Union member states, not only those who are economically active. Three directives specifically guaranteed the right of residents to retired people, students, and the economically inactive adults, with some limitations and requirements, such as the needed for retirees and students to demonstrate adequate financial resources and health insurance. These challenges, particularly with regard to allowing the economically inactive freedom of movement, have been seen as a clear evidence of a shift away from economic understanding of citizenship. Mentu and Guild, 2014. Accompanying this was the introduction of the wider political rights. Prior to the treaty, only citizens within their own state had the right to vote for European Parliament representatives since 1976. The Maastricht Treaty extended voting rights to European citizens residents in another member state. This applied only to local, regional elections and those for European Parliament representatives, and there was no requirement for the EEC citizens to be given the right to vote in the national elections. This change was part of the wider agenda of the treaty to move the European Union to being a political union, not only an economic one, and to create greater proximity between the institutions of the European Union and its citizens. Despite the important symbolism of the formal introduction of European citizenship and the political rights that accompanied it, what European citizenship actually meant in this period is contested. In the absence of any significant change in the European Union's institutional practices, the introduction of European citizenship in the treaty has been criticised for being little more or decorative and symbolic institution, and for offering a thin conception of citizenship. In contrast, there is an alternative view as emphasised that the formal articulation of a distinctive European Unionship citizenship was the positive step towards greater dynamism and a shift away from national state conceptions of citizenships in Olsen 2012. In this view, traditional approaches to the Union state and citizenship are challenged by articulation of new citizenship linked to supranational institutions, even if this remains somewhat embryonic rather than fully developed. The Maastricht Treaty included a number of other important changes to the European relationship, including the creation of a single currency and the expansion of the European Union into a wider array of non-economic activities. It signalled a substantial transfer of sovereignty to a supranational body. A number of states faced considerable changes to ratify the Maastricht Treaty within a French referendum, providing only a slim yes majority, and Denmark outright rejecting it. Eventually voting yes only at a second referendum following an agreement by the European Union to allow Denmark's number of exemptions from the requirements of the treaty. The evident tensions around the transfer of sovereignty led concerns that European citizenship would weaken national citizenship and threaten of sovereignty of member states. As a result of this, the Amsterdam Treaty, officially known as the Treaty of Amsterdam, amending the Treaty of the European Union, amended the language around European citizenships, stating instead that every person holding the nationality of a member state shall be a citizen of the Union. Citizenship of the Union shall complement and not replace national citizenship. The Treaty of Amsterdam 1997 European citizenship was therefore embedded into a nationality-based model of citizenship that has singly proved resilient to attempts to decouple the nation-state, citizenship and identity. The Lisbon Treaty, officially known as the Treaty of Lisbon, amending the Treaty of the European Union, and Treaty establishing the European Community, Treaty Lisbon 2007, which entered into force in 2009, expanded European citizenship and provided the opportunity for greater political participation as part of an ongoing approach to increase democratisation of the European Union, was a focus European citizen their participation in the political life of the European Union, and the equality of citizens was affirmed. European Citizens Initiative (ECI) was one of the most prominent actions to build stronger links between European citizens and the institutions of the European Union, and to address democratic deficit. Under the ECI, petitions signed by at least 1 million citizens from at least a quarter million European Union member states can ask the Commission to draft legislation on an issue where they have competence. It was intended that the ECI would create a more active citizenry and increase democratic participation, although there could be no compulsion of the European Commission to act on a successful initiative. Criticised for being overly bureaucratic, the ECI has not generated the engagement and involvement anticipated, with increasing numbers of initiatives being submitted between April 2012 and March 2015. Some 51 initiatives were submitted. 31 were accepted and 20 refused because they fell outside the competencies of the European Union, whereas between April 2015 and March 2017 it had fallen to 19, 17 accepted and 2 refused. By 2018, a total of 4 initiatives have been successful in reaching the required number of signatories, 3 prior to 2015, one in 2017. Although the ECI was never meant to be from or direct democracy and offered at best participatory democracy, its impact nevertheless remains muted. Alongside this attempt to reshape and reaffirm a stronger focus on the European citizen and political actors was the Charter of Fundamental Rights of the European Union. Agreed in 2000. The Charter did not enter into force until the Lisbon Treaty 2007. In details, the economic, social, political and civil rights that European citizens have echoing elements of the European Convention on Human Rights, but also effectively updating it to incorporate local and economic rights. It has been suggested that the Charter represents a new approach to citizenship, which articulates it as a form of justice. This resonates with the idea of supranational citizenship, and in a way in which it shared values and ideas that bind people together. However, the Charter added little to what had already been articulated in various European Union treaties and practices, serving to consolidate rather than to add anything new. Also in 2012, for these reasons, it has been criticised for failing to include broader collective dimensions and presenting citizenship as little more than the legal entitlements articulated in it. Bellamy 2004, nevertheless, the Charter's assertion that it places the individual in the heart of its activities by establishing the citizenship of the Union and by creating an area of freedom, security and justice. Charter of Fundamental Rights of the European Union 2007, preamble, was an important symbolic shift from the early decades where individuals were rarely identified except marks actors. 3.4. Although treaties have been a big bang moments for the European Union, European citizenship, that these are not the only point of development. Decisions by the ECG have contributed to a growing vision of distinctive European citizenship. ECG rulings, even before the formal identification of European citizenship, served to reinforce the idea that rights occurred to individuals within EEC member states, and that such rights were distinct from the member state in the foundational van gen ilus for Netherlands administrate the last Tingen 1963. The ECG argued that, independently of the legislation of member states, community law therefore not only imposes obligations on individuals, but it also intended to confer upon them rights. which become part of legal heritage. Although this predates the Maastricht Treaty articulation of formal European citizenship, it is clear that the ECG recognised that the EEC was something more than simply a relationship between member states. This was echoed in 2001, ruling in the Gregg Centre, Public d'Aide, Social d'Engineering, Leneuve, 2001, when the ECJ asserted European citizenship is destined to be the fundamental state of nationals in the member states, enabling those who find themselves in the same situation to enjoy the same treatment in law, irrespective of their nationality. Subject to such exceptions are as expressly provided for. One further important decision that would assert a broad interpretation of European citizenship was the Gerardo Ruiz Zambrano versus Office Nacional de Empleo. This case rested on the rights of two European citizens and the rights of their children who were European citizens as a result of holding Belgian citizenship. In the ruling, it was found that removing the two parents would deprive the children of the European citizenship rights. Prior to this ruling, a European citizen who had not exercised their right to freedom and of movement was subject to national law. However, in Zambrano's decision, the ECG held that even if European citizens had not exercised that right, they could use law if national laws would deprive them from the European citizenship rights. This decision broadened the rights of European citizens by decoupling them from the exercise of freedom of movement and instead linking them to being European citizens. The subsequent decision attempted and narrowed the application of decisions. Equality in European citizenship. Central to European citizenship have been assertion to the equality of citizens and ideas of solidarity and reciprocity among these citizens. However, while European citizenship have been brought within the opportunity for greater inclusion, these opportunities must be tempered by an understanding of the way in which European citizenship has also been uneven in its application. Not all citizens have benefited from the rights associated with being a European citizen, and some rights have been extended to those who are not European citizens. In this way, patterns of exclusion exist, not only in relation to who is and who is not a citizen, but also in a way which European citizens are treated within Europe. Treaties and legal decisions have provided a set of rights for European citizens. The key rights are to move within and live and work in the EU, to vote in, stand in for election, European Parliament and local government on the same basis as citizens of that territory, to petition the European Parliament and to complain to the EU Ombudsman, response from the EU institution in EU official language, to access certain European Commission, Parliament and Council documents, equal access to civil service, and to receive diplomatic support from another European member state and a country where individual's own member state is represented. Some of these rights include freedom of movement and the right to reside in Europe, in the European Union member states, are not exclusive to EU citizens alone. Citizens of non-EU members of the European Economic Area, EEA, Iceland, Liechtenstein and Norway are able to claim these rights too. And family members of EEA citizens who are not EEA citizens themselves can also exercise them in Garcia and Drade. Regardless of such assertions as the equality of citizens, there is an evident unevenness in the expression of both European and national citizenship within the European Union. Indeed, different elements of the European Union citizenship are privileged first nationals, and those reside in other member states in some areas, and second country nationals. These reside in another European Union member state. In others, for example, the Maastricht Treaty created divisions in the right to move to vote in elections, with second country nationals to give the right to participate in national elections, although some European states allow citizens abroad to vote in national elections. There are others whose second country nationals are also lose their right to participate in national elections of their country of citizenship. In Denmark, for example, people must permanently be domiciled to legally vote in national elections. This means that Danes living in a second country, Danes living in a second country national member state have no access to national representation. European Parliamentary Research. Hi, Salim.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Yeah, good. You?
Good, good. I'm calling you from Vodafone.
We do.
I have 25 years experience of customer care.
Yeah.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm right. Yeah,
Good, good. Tomorrow you're coming?
yeah, yep.
Yeah, okay. I wanted to tell you, tomorrow I have a meeting scheduled for me at the town hall.
Yeah.
From 11:30.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, so if you can pop in early, you can pick up the things. Then I will speak to New Love.
Yeah.
Yeah, to be there early as well, so that he can support you to arrange, but also to make sure the program is running smoothly.
Yeah, okay. All right, but
Yeah.
same, sorry.
Yeah, so if you can pop in, maybe because you're supposed to be at the council town hall, and is it 11:30?
Yeah.
Yeah, 11:30. So if you can come around maybe 10:30 or 10:50.
Yeah.
10:30, sorry.
Yeah. I always get yours. Yeah, I always get yours about 22 past, don't I?
Yeah. So that, but I'll speak to New Love to be there also a bit early.
Yeah.
To see how we can support you also to make sure the program is running smoothly.
Yeah. All right, Prince. Salim, sorry.
Okay, thank you. And also, I will process the last week payment.
Yeah. All right, Salim. All right, thank you.
So by evening, I'll include even the Saturday one. So
yeah, all right,
it'll be 3 days for last week.
All right, thanks, Salim. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, so I'll see you tomorrow at some point.
See you tomorrow. Okay, see you.
Take care, Salim. Bye. However, those European citizens who have not exercised freedom of movement within the European will remain subject to national laws, which may have the criteria that restrict the rights of citizenship to have non-citizens join them. In effect, second and third country nationals are granted rights that may not be available to first country nationals. The unevenness in the rights of citizenship was played out in a grander scale during the enlargement process of the first decade of the first century, and highlights how problematic European citizenship is within the wider political context of European Union member states asserting their sovereignty. Despite the centrality of freedom of movement to European citizenship, the enlargement of the European Union in 2004 by 10 countries led to concerns that the exercise of that right would have detrimental effects on the labour markets in recipient countries. As a result, 12 of the 15 member states placed restrictions on the freedom of movement of some European citizens, phasing it in overextended periods in order to restrict access to labour markets. Restrictions were also imposed on Bulgaria and Romania, who became members of the European Union in 2007 enlargement, with some member states imposing limitation on freedom in the movement of access to the labour-free market upon 7 years. What this suggests to white European citizens, there are no more bargaining chips in Olsen 2012, page 143, and such rights can easily be withdrawn or curtailed. Reciprocity and solidarity, European citizens have gone through a number of different interpretations during its development. Initially a market-based conception rooted in freedom movement, since the Maastricht Treaty citizenship has been widened and deepened with greater emphasis on political rights and reciprocal solidarity among citizens. However, the European citizenship sits alongside and is controlled by citizenship of member states. How can it be understood? Although it would appear to be distinct from a model of citizenship based on a nation state, it shares many of its features, including that of territory-bound state and its ongoing attempt to build and maintain a shared identity and solidarity between those who belong to, are members of, a specific nation state, which suggests that it is the nexus of nation state and citizens is not only resilient on, but the European citizenship seeks to echo. However, one of the weaknesses of European citizenship projects has been its failure to build reciprocity and solidarity among the peoples of the European Union, while the legal status of European citizenship has been clear since the 1990s. Citizenship is more than that. It requires political, cultural, social and symbolic practice, and it is these that remain underdeveloped. The extension of political rights and the use of European symbols alongside the development of cross-border links through support from transnational learning and research have been part of the attempt to create a distinctive European citizenship. Ultimately, this remains an unfinished and indeed ongoing process. Nevertheless, the fragility of the solidarity of reciprocity has been repeatedly made evident. This weakens the European Union's attempt to build solidarity and reciprocity as part of the European citizenship become clear in the first 2 decades of the 21st century, when issues around migration book into and within the European Union become increasingly contentious and contributed to some EU member states seeking to assert their sovereignty in relation to border control. Some countries, including Italy, have argued that there was failure on the part of the European Union also to address collectively entry from people by both Africa and the Middle East, leaving the economic, social and political impact of mass migration to be focused on only a handful of states. This is a result of the Dublin Convention 1997, which requires refugees applying for asylum to do so in their country's first country of landing. In 2016, even 7 signatories of the Schengen Agreement 1985, which removes borders between signatory countries, temporarily closed their borders due to the surge in the number of people migrating to the European Union and a breakdown in the Dublin Convention. At the same time, there's been considerable concern that the idea of welfare tourism within the European Union, the ability of a member states to its limits of welfare system is limited given non-discrimination treaty requirements. That has not, however, stopped the member states effectively seeking to do so through the imposition of eligibility criteria and requirements. Borgberger and Schmidt, 2017, despite the limitations that exist on access to welfare by second nationals who are economically inactive, and a significant amount of evidence to suggest that welfare tourism is more myth than reality. Fernandez, 2016, the idea has been a powerful one in some member states acting to hinder development of solidarity and reciprocity between European citizens. Chapter 4, Conclusion. This chapter examined the way in which European citizenship emerged from the focus of limited economic integration into something more complex and distinctive at the European Union itself, moved towards greater political, economic and social integration, widely contested both by national governments as EU member states in relation to their autonomy and sovereignty. And at a more abstract level, in debates on the different approaches to citizenship, European citizenship is a relation of both the constraints of traditional ideas of citizenship and of the potential for citizenship to be decoupled from the nation state. There are many challenges associated with European Union citizenship and its uneven application. Indeed, the failure of European citizenship to create strong reciprocity and solidarity among citizens has created significant fragility at times of economic, social and political stress. Nevertheless, despite the undoubted weakness of European citizenship, it is worth remembering that the time period in which European citizenship has been articulated is still a relatively short one, in the context of the centuries over which many European member states have developed ideas of what it means to be citizens. Furthermore, the attempt to construct a citizenship must be done in the context of European Union member states who both define who is and who is not a citizen, and steadfastly define their right to do so. Given this, acknowledging the unsettled nature of European citizenship, different approaches to citizenship can help to interpret the potential future direction of that citizen.